Welcome to those of you who are joining. Just a quick thing for the speakers, you can all be on mute, inshallah, just until your time comes up. That is all right. Thank you. Okay, I will go ahead and get started as there are 43 people already. So hello, everyone. Welcome to this week's congressional briefing on the recent attacks in India on Muslim women's right to wear the hijab. My name is Safa, and I am moderating today's briefing. So I want to start this briefing with some background information on the situation Muslim women are facing right now in India, for those of you who are not familiar, and particularly for those who are tuning in from the United States or other parts of the world that are not in India. So in December of 2021, a college in the South Indian state of Karnataka suddenly took issue with the fact that some Muslim students would come to school wearing the hijab, despite the fact that the school year had already begun and there had been no issues prior. The faculty of the school claimed that the hijab violated the dress code and secularism, even though Article 25 of India's constitution guarantees freedom of religious expression for all Indians, regardless of who they are and what religion they follow. So when these students protested, they were kicked out of classrooms, insulted by their teachers, marked as absent for weeks, forced to write an apology letter, and subjected to what one student called mental torture. The hijab ban was then picked up by several other schools, unfortunately, not just in Karnataka state, but in several states across India. On top of that, Hindu extremist students, both men and women, have gone out of their way to harass and intimidate Muslim students by gathering in large groups, chanting Hindu religious slogans while wearing the saffron scarves. And for those of you who are not familiar, saffron is a color associated with the Hindu religious faith. So as a result, the High Court of Karnataka has passed an interim order banning all religious dress in schools, which activists have pointed out is a targeted attack on Muslim women who consider the hijab an essential part of their faith. Muslim women who protest the order have been subjected to various forms of harassment. At one school, hijabi students were segregated into separate classrooms away from Hindu and non-hijabi students. Another school suspended 58 students for protesting. Other schools have stopped students and teachers at their gates, forcing Muslim women to take off their hijabs in public while being filmed and sometimes while being laughed at. And possibly the most disturbing aspect of this case is the way that politicians, grown men with power and influence, have dragged these young women, many of them minors, with accusations that are nothing short of vile. Karnataka is ruled by the Bharatiya Janata Party, or the BJP, which is the political party of Prime Minister Narendra Modi. So BJP leaders have accused these Muslim girls of having a terrorist mindset, of being part of an anti-India plot, and of being pawns driving a Muslim separatist movement. These leaders have called for the arrest of these young women, calling them indisciplined and arrogant, telling them to go to Pakistan or Afghanistan if they really want to wear the hijab. Recently, the BJP went as far as to leak the personal information of these minors, including their names, phone numbers, and addresses online through the official BJP Twitter account, putting these young women and their families at risk. I want to make it clear that none of this is happening in a bubble. Authorities in Karnataka did not just wake up one day and decide to ban the hijab for fun. In the past few months, the number of misogynistic attacks on Muslim women from an increasingly radicalized Hindu majority is nothing short of terrifying. And unfortunately, these attacks have become normalized. And you will hear more about this later on in the briefing. I just say all this to remind you that India has a systemic Islamophobia problem, which is being sanctioned and encouraged by the state itself. So in this briefing, we'll be hearing from multiple Indian Muslim women and their allies who all say the same thing. No woman should be forced to choose between her clothing and her education. But before we get into that, we'd like to play a brief video showing last week's news updates from India. So if we could pull up that video, please.
As protests against a ban on the hijab erupted across India, a government school in Karnataka suspended Muslim girl students participating in the protests. A school humiliated a Muslim teacher publicly by asking her to remove the hijab. She instead resigned. A candlelight vigil was held in Bangalore to support the protests. Hindu extremists pelted stones at a mosque in Karnataka, apparently in response to the protest against the ban on hijab. In Uttar Pradesh, Hindu extremists chanting Hindu religious slogans attempted to enter the Taj Mahal. Elsewhere in the state, more Hindu extremists burned a burqa, the full-body garment, in a naked display of anti-Muslim bigotry. Leaders of India's ruling Bharatiya Janata Party in Karnataka leaked the personal information of minor Muslim girls, including their addresses, on Twitter. These girls have for weeks protested against a ban on the hijab. The tweet was later taken down by Twitter after it was widely flagged. In a travesty of justice, a court in the Indian state of Gujarat sentenced 38 Muslim men to death despite overwhelming evidence of their total innocence. The men were accused of a string of deadly bombings in 2008. The Gujarat BJP posted an Islamophobic sketch of Muslim men in skull caps hanging together. Twitter later deleted the tweet. An 18-year-old Muslim man was found murdered in a jail in New Delhi with his body bearing marks of severe torture. Zishan had been in jail for 3 months on mere charges of stealing cigarettes. When his family saw the body, it was mutilated beyond recognition. He was recognized only by his toenails. Yati Narsinganand, a saffron-robed Hindu extremist who organized a Hindu religious event that called for the genocide of 2 million Muslims, was released from prison within days of arrest. His supporters thronged the prison gates and gave him a hero's welcome. A BJP legislator in Uttar Pradesh said that if he was re-elected, he would ensure that Muslims stopped wearing skull caps and instead put a tilak on their forehead, a Hindu religious symbol. A BJP leader of a South Indian state, Telangana, threatened to bulldoze the homes of Muslims in Uttar Pradesh if they did not vote for the Hindu supremacist chief minister of Uttar Pradesh, Yogi Adityanath.
So as you can see in that video, the attacks on Muslims are not just limited to Karnataka state, they are systemic and they are ongoing throughout all of India right now. And with that context in mind, we'll now turn it over to our first speaker, Amna Kosar. She is a student activist who is pursuing her MSc in medical anatomy in Kasturba Medical College in Manipal. She is the district organizer of the Girls Islamic Organization in Karnataka, and she is one of the ex-students of one of the issued colleges in Udupi, the district in Karnataka where the hijab bans were first imposed. So Amna, thank you so much for joining us today. We're excited to hear from you.
Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, dear sisters. First of all, Jazakallah khair for inviting me as a panelist for this session, because knowing the ground realities is very important for any matter we discuss. First and foremost, this issue it came into light of, in our view, that is Girls Islamic Organization on 31st of December 2021, wherein we got the news that there is such a college, a government PU college in Udupi, Karnataka, wherein girls are not allowed to wear hijab and they're standing outside. So as soon as we went to the college, we could see that the situation out there was already ruined, because the girls were out. Most of the media persons were present already. Along with that, there were many other organizations also supporting girls for their hijab, and there were police vans and everything out there. And the issue, when we saw, the moment we went there, we had a concept in our mind that we will go to the principal or the management or the college authorities, and we'll try to solve this issue by mutual talks with the principal. But that wasn't able to do, because as soon as we went there, the police was not allowing us to go inside, because we were from an organization, and they were only requesting the parents, they were only allowing the parents of the girls to go inside and talk to the principal. But then after a long request, we were about to go. And once we went inside, there were already some other Muslim organizations who were talking with the principal. And then next was our turn. And when we went inside, principal was like, I won't be able to let you in if you're from organization. If you're from if you're any parent of any of these 6 girls, then you're allowed to come inside. Then we were like, we have heard only from the girls. First, we went and talked with all the 6 girls there, what was actual issue and why they were not allowed to wear. And the thing they told was like, they started wearing 4 days back, and just because of the instinct of their religion, they thought that all other religions, students follow their religious attire, then why can't we follow? So with that instinct, we girls started wearing hijab and all those things they mentioned with us. And after a long talk with girls, then we got the chance to talk with the principal authorities, management, and then we just convinced the principal. He was not ready to talk with us. Then we convinced principal, telling we have only heard from the girls' side, sir, about this issue. So we want to know what actually is this issue from your side. So then he mentioned that girls were allowed to wear hijab. It is a college wherein girls are not allowed to wear hijab from priorly in their classrooms, but from till they are allowed to wear with the burqa, with their hijab naqab, till their classrooms. Once the classes start, they are supposed to remove the hijab, and they again, when they leave the classroom, they are free to wear it. That is what he mentioned. Till so many years of our college, we this is the only rules we were following through, and this is a new intake. They're pleading for wearing hijabs inside the classroom also, which we cannot appreciate. And all he mentioned, there were around 16 girls. He told that there are 1,000+ girls here. It is a girls' college. And 100+ girls are Muslims, and around 16 girls started wearing hijab just 4 days back. That is around 27th of December 2021. And then after that, we called their parents, and we talked with them, and we convinced them, and then it got reduced to 12 and 8, and now the 6 girls are um, now the 6 girls are like, we want hijab, so we cannot allow them to wear. And if you have anything to talk, then tomorrow we have a meeting at 11 o'clock, wherein all our MLA of Udupi district and all the authorities will be present. Their principal, along with the parents and their students, will be present. You can keep your thing. So after that, we left from there, and then next day, that is 1st of January 2022, before 11 o'clock, we made an effort to go to DC and DDPU of Udupi district, and then we met him and we convinced him, telling all the things to DC and DDPU, that this particular hijab is our constitutional right, and it is also a part of our faith. So please allow this girls to wear their hijab, and please sort this issue in a local level, because it is a local issue of only one college. Please sort it out in this meeting itself. We had requested DC and DDPU. Later, he also mentioned that we'll see what will happen, and he also convinced us. But his only question was like, why only these 6 girls want to wear hijab? And another question was like, it was already mentioned in, whenever we give admissions to the students, we already tell them that hijab is not allowed within the classrooms. Then how can they go against the rules of the college and all these things he mentioned? So we told, in contrary to him, that religion is something wherein individually, whenever you get instinct, you that depends upon an individual person. So then we tried to convince him, but the result of the meeting was not in the favor of hijab. Then assistant DDPU, whoever we met there, he had suggested it that you can appeal to the state, whoever PU board in charge is there, you can appeal to him. So I had talked to our state president of Karnataka to send a GIO team, Girls Islamic Organization team from Bangalore, to go and meet with the PU board PU board in charge in Bangalore. But then by that time, this issue had raised like anything. It had escalated like anything. It had already reached in media, and it had been a national, international news already. So it was so difficult to manage that. And there was very difference of opinion between the Muslim organizations itself. Each organization were giving different statement. It was very difficult to handle. So in that moment of time, there is a organization called Muslim Wakuta here, which is an organization, which is a body wherein all the Muslim organizations are under it. So this issue was taken under Muslim Vakuta, and all the Muslim organizations sat together and they were discussing about this issue. And even Muslim Vakuta made a lot of efforts to meet DC, DDPU, and principal with mutual talks, but nothing worked out. They even requested them to at least allow the girls to wear the same salwar shawl on their heads, but nothing worked out. They also made an effort to secure their examination as it was near their board exams. Even nothing worked out. So because of which we can see that the girls of first issue, that is 6 girls, out of which few of the girls went to High Court. After a few weeks, around 2 weeks of this issue, we can see the same issue arising from some other places in Udupi district, that is Kundapur, wherein um, this was the issue which arose because of the saffron shawls, guys who wore saffron shawls and they entered the classrooms or the campuses. They were not only the students, there were some outsiders also in that. So here we can see that these are the colleges wherein the girls were allowed to wear hijabs, and most of the girls used to go to those. They used to choose those colleges only because the hijabs were allowed. And it has a history of around 100 plus years wherein girls are wearing hijab in those colleges. And because of the entry of these saffron shawls in the campuses, the principal had to tell that if hijabs, if you want, if uh, saffron shawls, I have if I have to allow saffron shawls, if I don't have to allow saffron shawls, then hijabs should also be removed. And that was the state wherein we could see um, see in media about the Kundapur cases and all. And it was also seen in some other nearby colleges in Baindur, in Basrur and all. But that was even solved by the mutual talks with the principal, and he allowed the girls to wear hijab in few colleges. But then again, big issue arose here again in Udupi, in MGM college, PU as well as degree college. Again, this was a college wherein the hijabs were allowed in to the girls, but again there was entry of the saffron shawls, because of which again the principal had told girls to not wear hijabs. Um, this MGM College is a college wherein even I studied, and it has around 5 years of like from past 5 years. I have worn hijab in that college. So first when so it's not a point to arise, and this issue has turned political, because of which we see all these things happening here in Udupi. And now it's not even in Udupi, it has reached all over the places in India. um, Sharing a small experience about how I studied in MGMPU college. First of all, there were no Muslim girls who were wearing hijab in MGM college itself. Also, I started wearing hijab, as well as my sleeves of my salwar kameez was also full. But then there was no issue at all in the first year. But when I went to second year, there were some Muslim girls whom I met in masjid during Zohar namaz. And then the girls were asking me like, "You're wearing hijab? Can we wear hijab? Because I don't see anyone else wearing hijab. There is no issue regarding hijab, right?" So I was like, "Yeah, there is no issue. If please start wearing it now itself. Don't wear in the middle of the year. Start wearing now itself." Then the first year girls also started wearing hijab. But the problem was like that the girls started wearing colorful shawls, for which there was an hindrance to the uniformity of the college, because of which principal caught these girls wearing colorful shawls, and she had told these girls that you shouldn't wear hijab from tomorrow if you're wearing this colorful shawls. And the time she was telling that, I was passing by from that place, and principal was like, "You started wearing hijab in this college, no? You remove hijab first of all, then all these girls will remove hijab. And you meet me in the cabin tomorrow," she told me. Then I went and talked to her, and then I told that, ma'am, I don't think you have any problem with hijab because you see me in for almost an year and you were my lab in charge also. I don't think you have any problem with hijab. If you have any problem, I think it is because of the color code that these girls are wearing. I'll tell them to wear black shawl itself, ma'am, I told her. So then she was like, no black shawl, let them wear the uniform shawl itself. The two sets will be there. One wear it to your chest, one wear it to your head, she told. And the same thing continues till now. The girls of PU, MGM PU College, where that same rule is being taken till now. Till now, girls wear the same uniform shawl itself. They are not allowed to wear any other colorful shawls. So it was never an issue in that college of wearing hijab. But on the other hand, on contrary, I would also like to mention that hijab is an issue. It's not a new issue here in Udupi and Dakshina Kannada districts of Karnataka. Always this issue rose up, and always through mutual talks and locally solving it, this issue was suppressing there and then and there. But this had taken a political turn, because of which we see this issue. This issue is seen everywhere in India. Jazakallah khair.
Thank you so much, Amna. We appreciate your time, and we appreciate you for your bravery and for all the work you're doing on the ground. Jazakallah khair, and a lot of support to you and to all of your classmates and other women who are going through the same thing. So our next speaker is Mr. Muhammad Niaz. He is an advocate at the High Court of Karnataka, a human rights advocate, and the Karnataka State Secretary for the Association for Protection of Civil Rights. So, Mr. Niaz. I wonder if he dropped off. All right, in that case, we'll get back to him. And until then, I'll move on to our next speaker, who is Sumaya Zama. She is an MA candidate for the Columbia and Aga Khan University dual degree in Islamic Studies and Muslim Cultures. As the former Director of Community Advocacy and Education at the Massachusetts chapter of the Council on American Islamic Relations, Sumaya has dedicated her life's work to improving the material conditions of her community. Her academic interests are sparked by her background in youth work, civil rights, and community organizing, through which she explores how Muslim Americans, particularly young Muslim women, deploy the Islamic tradition to respond to life under a surveillance state. Sumaya, take it away.
Thank you so much, Safa, for first of all nailing that introduction.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you so much, Amna, for your talk before. As you said, something really important is understanding the material conditions on the ground. And so I thank you for sharing your experience with us. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for having me in this congressional briefing. My name is Sumaya Zama, and like Safa said, I am a scholar activist currently pursuing my master's degree at Columbia University. I wish I could tell you all more about myself under better circumstances. Wearing hijab is so much a part of my daily life that typically it is not something that I have to think about, much less talk about. And yet I sit here in front of you all, very visibly, a hijab-wearing woman, here to talk about this hijab. I played 4 years on my high school's tennis team in this hijab. I've participated in public protests in the United States and have been free to share and stand by my beliefs in this hijab. While wearing hijab has not been easy in the United States, there is not a thing in the world that I believe I cannot accomplish in this hijab. There's not a door in this country I feel I cannot open. There's not a room I believe I cannot occupy. This, as we have learned from Amna, is not the experience of Indian Muslim girls and women in India right now. India is home to hundreds of languages, religions, and cultural practices. While many of us share a common history and heritage, none of us quite look the same or practice in the same ways. Each community, be it religious, cultural, or linguistic, brings a unique beauty to the fabric that is the Indian people. It is the agenda of the current government of India to destroy this diversity and to establish itself as a cultural ethno-state. India's democracy is on the brink of crisis. Right now, girls that look like me are fighting for their rights to enter the schools that they have been attending for years. They are being hounded and harassed as they walk to the front doors of their colleges and are denied entry simply because they are wearing hijab. As some of you may be aware of, deveiling or anti-veiling is a historical phenomenon that has its roots in the colonial past of many countries. From official policies in countries like Algeria and Turkey, women were once barred from public life simply for wearing clothing that expressed their religious practice. These policies at the time were presented as progressive as they worked to remove supposedly archaic and regressive beliefs around the veil. What these policies and campaigns really did was remove Muslim women from the public sphere entirely and dehumanize communities with local practices around clothing. Many have said that what is happening in India right now with the so-called privatization of religious practice is also secular or progressive. That Muslim women, we are somehow brainwashed into our choices, so now governments must step in and deny us of choice. What I can tell you is that there is nothing progressive about restricting women and girls from access to education, forcing women and girls to remove their clothing against their will, and hounding and harassing women and girls on the street as they try to attend their colleges and schools. Quite frankly, it is humiliating, infantilizing, and patronizing to claim that as women, we are unable to make our own choices. Furthermore, the privatization of religious and cultural practices is not secularism in India. It is a selective secularism that positions religious minorities as having to be religiously neutral, while the current government advances and makes public its own agenda around the creation of a fascist Hindutva nation state. I would like to speak as candidly as possible on this matter. What is happening right now in India in front of the entire world is mass sexual harassment. Indian Muslim women are being told what they can and cannot wear by men and by institutions. The consent of thousands of women is being violated as they are told to strip pieces of clothing that they do not wish to remove. It is my firm belief that all women should get to choose what we wear or don't wear each day as we leave our homes in the morning. Our silence on efforts to ban the hijab in India means the approval of the violation of Indian Muslim women's bodily autonomy. As a future educator myself, as an aspiring educator, it is my fundamental belief that all people deserve access to education and that no one deserves to be barred from any classroom because of the way they look, believe, practice, or dress. And as I look toward the brave young women of India fighting for their right to go to school as they are, I am reminded of my childhood hero, Ruby Bridges, who had the tremendous task of desegregating an all-white school in the United States in the 1960s. I am reminded that even today, young girls from around the world are still being tasked with the responsibility of pushing back against racism and bigotry simply because they wish to go to school. This fight is not about our personal beliefs or ideas about what hijab is or is not. This fight is about whether we are willing to accept a world where women are denied the choice to wear what they wish to wear. I urge you all to stand with the brave Muslim women of India as they make history and actively resist against the rise of fascism in India. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Sumaya, for that beautiful, beautiful set of remarks. We really appreciate your time. Thank you so much. We'll now be turning it over to another electric Muslim activist. Sister Amina Kausar is an Indian American Muslim IT professional, tech entrepreneur, activist, and vocal critic against Islamophobia in India. She will be speaking on the way the hijab ban and the recent harassment of Muslim women in Karnataka is part of a much larger trend in India. So, Sister Amina, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Sister Safa, and the organizers for having me today. And thank you for these two passionate ladies here, Sumaya and Amna. You inspire everyone of us, and especially Amna, thank you for narrating your ordeal and the narrative from Karnataka. I am a seasoned IT professional, a fledgling tech entrepreneur, and amateur activist, and a vocal critic of Islamophobia and persecution of minorities, especially in India, as also anywhere else in the world. But most importantly and identifiably, I am an Indian American Muslim woman. I wear my faith on my head, literally. I don't blend in, I stand out. I am a hijabi. I was 26 when I first started wearing my hijab after learning why it is to be worn and why it is important in our religion. And I continued to wear it as I moved to the United States. It has been such an integral part, instinctive part of my everyday life that I never had to give it a thought until, of course, last 2 weeks, when the right-wing BJP government manufactured yet another opportunity to intimidate, humiliate, dehumanize Indian Muslims and Indian Muslim women specifically. Since I first saw the traumatizing visuals from India of girls in hijab being turned away if they don't take off their headscarves, of one young girl, Muskan, being chased by a hungry crowd of 40, 50 saffron-clad goons, teachers taking off their burqas and hijabs outside the school gate, just to be able to keep their jobs, I find myself thinking, talking, analyzing, explaining, defending hijab all the time. First off, I would like to get the most basic argument made by the Karnataka government out of the way. This hijab ban has nothing to do with bringing uniformity to schools or colleges. This new rule has absolutely nothing to do with enforcing school rules. The girls have always been wearing hijabs in their very same schools and colleges. This overnight enthusiasm to create and impose some sort of new quote unquote uniform rules is politically motivated. The hijab ban is the latest in the series of discriminatory laws created by the Indian state that is increasingly seeking to marginalize Muslims and Muslim women in particular, exposing them to intolerable violence. This hijab ban is unconstitutional, as every Indian right citizen to practice their faith is constitutionally guaranteed and protected. This move by the BJP government in Karnataka is obviously a part of the larger goal of the genocide of Indian Muslims set by the Islamophobic, autocratic Modi regime. The BJP government has already adopted a series of laws and policies that systematically discriminate against the Muslims and other vulnerable communities in the country, such as the citizenship law or revoking of the constitutional autonomy in Muslim majority state, Jammu and Kashmir. Let's talk about the beef ban or the laws against the cow slaughter or the love jihad law and many others. These laws are accompanied by street violence, by vigilante mobs that lynch working class Muslims and at will. Personally, this new year started for me with finding myself listed for an auction on an Indian app called Bully Buy that was offering Indian Muslim women for sale. The humiliation, the degradation is only escalating in its intensity and monstrosity. Now, I would like to address the other aspect of hijab discussion that invariably props up. Whenever I say that I wear the hijab, this piece of garment, which I consider sacred, entirely out of my choice. I'm often told that this is our conditioning, our indoctrination into an oppressive system that makes us choose a hijab or a burqa or a veil, for that matter, the niqab. That if we were not forced to do it by our communities or our families, and especially with me, my husband, we would have made different choices. I'm often told that my husband forces me to wear a hijab. I chuckle at that, but that we are under the influence of our families is what we are often told, and that is simply and that it simply cannot be a women's independent choice, even as hundreds of women take to the streets in India and world over, screaming that hijab is our choice. This kind of gaslighting is as baffling as it is infuriating. How dare anyone deny our agency and question our ability to make decisions for ourselves? I have sisters, cousins who don't wear the hijab. I have younger friends that cover up more sincerely than I do. I know what I'm doing, and I wish to answer to no one except my God, that is Allah, who alone guides me. To erase my identity to solemn belief in order to liberate me is preposterous. If we take a peek into history, it was under the colonial rule that a movement began to ensure that Muslim women to look and dress like the European women. Socialist killer of Drew University explains that as demands of independence from colonial rule grew, the headscarf or head coverings became the symbol of identity and of opposition to the West for the women. For Muslim women today, wearing a hijab can be a religious act, a way of demonstrating our submission to God, as instructed by our holy book, the Quran, which advises both men and women to dress modestly. But Muslim women's clothing isn't always entirely about adherence to faith. We have used our choice of clothing in the past and present and as an assertion of our identity, our individuality. Hence, stripping our community of its very identity is just not alarming, but also genocidal. The refusal of certain so-called liberal and neutral intellectuals, as well as members of the press, to see the context in which this ban has been brought out reveals that this own bigotry and internalized Islamophobia. We can all see what followed the hijab ban. Students are being forced to choose between their right to practice their religion and their right to education. Even teachers had to quit their jobs or succumb to this disciplinary new rule. Hindutva mobs have found yet another excuse to harass Muslim girls and women. A BJP leader tweeted and the personal details, including the phone numbers and addresses of the 6 minor girl students who were at the forefront of anti-hijab ban protests. In Shimoga, a small town in Karnataka, the houses and shops of working class Muslims have been burnt in response to the protests. The poison has already spread to UP, Bihar, Madhya Pradesh, even the national capital, New Delhi. Hindu extremists in UP tried to enter the Taj Mahal to recite Hindu prayers inside the monument. Elsewhere in UP, Hindutva mobs burned burqa openly amidst chanting Jai Shri Ram. A woman in New Delhi wasn't allowed to enter a bank unless she took off her hijab. So, can we please drop the pretense that it is anything to do with the uniform dress code? As I end my briefing, I urge any one of you hearing this today, please stand with my sisters in India. Please speak out because it's already too late. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sister Amina. I really appreciate your words and your presence here as always. So it seems Mr. Niaz is still not able to reconnect. So we will be going into our Q&A right now with our speakers. If you do have a question, you can drop it into the chat box right now. And I'll go ahead and open with one question for anybody to answer, but I think specifically Amna. So Amna, how do you see this playing out in the future? Like, what can people overseas right now do to support Muslim women in India?
Safa, can you repeat your question?
Sure. So the question is, how can people who are living outside of India, like in the United States or in the UK, how can we support Indian Muslim women? What is the best way for us to raise awareness? And like, is there anything you would recommend for us to do to get the word out?
Yeah, as our sisters, both of the sisters has told already to stand for the hijabis here in India. It's very important actually, because here in India, we have majority the right hand people. So support from international level will surely help a lot to change the verdict of whatever court issue is going on. So I think for this, the better person was Niaz Bhai to explain how people from international people can help these hijabi girls here in India. Uh, I think we can all stand for these girls. Actually, the girls here in India who have left their colleges and who of them are sitting in homes, they're actually very scared, and they are having a very bad mental health, as they are very scared of what about their exams, and when their exams are they're approaching very near. So I don't know, they are very scared, thinking how they will approach exams. Will they be able to write exams, because their sessional exams, they've however lost it. Now what about board exams? They're thinking so. So I think people out there can help these hijabis, and they can stand for them. That's it.
Thank you so much. So for Sumaya and Sister Amina, I was wondering if you could answer that question as well from the perspective of activists based outside of India.
I would like to take that question. Thank you so much, Amna. And there are efforts being made individually and organizationally in the United States and elsewhere to talk more. Multiple protests have happened in the United States to make sure that the congressmen are aware. And then there are multiple activities being done, so international pressure is brought. Definitely, I think the international community is being made aware of as the atrocities are increasing on Indian Muslims, especially the hijab role. And I think we should be able to build some pressure on and see how that goes.
Thank you. Sumaya, would you like to add anything to that?
Yeah, absolutely. I think so. One of the first things that comes to mind is, Amna, you began your talk by saying it's important to know what's happening on the ground. Something that I think we all need to keep in mind is that there are literal girls and women whose futures are at stake. Being barred from education has real material, economic consequences, mental health, psychological and emotional consequences. And while we praise our Muslim women for being so brave and so bold, part of supporting them means supporting them materially and understanding that us who are in the West or other parts of the world, how are we leveraging our networks? How are we leveraging our financial means to support Muslim women in India materially beyond just drawing awareness? So whether that's if you have a network where people are able to provide, Amna said there is psychological repercussions happening right now. There are Muslim women in need of medical support that is psychological in nature. If you have access to that, reach out to Amna. If you have access to financial leverages, educational networks, leverage those resources and networks, because we've sort of supported them with our words, but now we have to support them with our wallets, with our networks, and with our, inshallah, like our intentions.
Thank you so much. So I'll turn another question over to Amna. There are a lot of people that you see right now, like whether it's in the media or on social media or just like in our own circles, who are making the argument that like this is not okay if you're saying like we should be allowed to wear the hijab, but like other people should not be allowed to wear their saffron scarves. And this is a debate we've seen a lot. And I know all of you have touched on that a little briefly. This is also the argument that some liberals are taking and trying to find some like neutral playing field to stand on. How would you address that argument?
Yes, saffron shawls are something additional added on, wherein hijabs are something which Muslim girls have been wearing from past decades, and this saffron shawl is something that has been that has been come in the society just to oppose the hijab, and that's what people who address whoever speaks to me, I tell them the same, is that saffron shawls are not the shawls that they usually wear in Rome in the public streets or whatever, but hijabs are something with wherein people wear it no matter where is the place, no matter where public or in institutions or wherever we go, we wear hijabs. But saffron shawls, we never saw them wearing it except for their religious places. So this point needs to be more clear, and they take saffron shawls as something important as equal to hijab, which is not true.
Thank you so much for that great answer. If either Sumaya or Sister Amina, do you want to add on anything else, please do go ahead. All right, it seems like Amina, you've summed it up beautifully. We have another question for you. One person is asking, I know you mentioned about the girls being scared about exams. I want to ask, what is the mental situation of not only these girls, but their parents and the overall Muslims with the Hindutva right-wing atrocities increasing every single day?
Yeah, there are actually three groups of people whom we meet usually. The girls who are going through this hijab issue. There are first group is the group wherein both girls as well as parents are religious mindset people, and then they don't want the girls to remove hijab and go to college at any cost. Secondly, there is other group wherein the girls are religious and they don't want to remove their hijabs, wherein the parents are more career based, and they just think that let the girl go and write exam and let her come back just for the sake of exam. And there is one more group wherein the students are career based and the parents are religious. So what was the question?
They're asking like, how is their mental state? Like what are these parents and these families feeling like regarding the safety of their girls, as well as like the general Indian public, since they're seeing so many like attacks increasing by the day from the right wing?
Yeah. Parents as well as students are very scared, like they don't know how to approach. They are trying all sorts of routes, like how can it be solved very intimately in a local way. There has been we have been putting a lot of petitions in different sorts of things, like one based on the proof, like how they were the interim order which was taken, which was misinterpreted. For that also petitions were put. We were trying, the girls and the students are continuously asking the different organizations, like how can they solve this issue, and they're actually very scared, like what will be the future, because now it might be the institutions, further it might be some other places also they may target. So uh, uh, yeah, the students as well as the parents are we as well as them, we are actually keeping I personally am keeping a very good contact with these girls so that they don't have mental distress or something like that. And we are also trying to keep some counseling sessions for them so that they don't be very scared in these matters. And that is what important and we can do right now for them. Because the issue is still in court and it is not being addressed properly yet.
Thank you so much for your response. We have one more question for you. So this is, I think I might split this into two questions. So first off, what is the general public reaction to the hijab issue, especially among Hindu staff of these colleges and just like the Hindu public in general?
After this issue, I personally feel that whenever I go to my college doesn't have this issue now because there are many international students out there studying with hijab and there's nothing issue like that. But I can see people, the moment I go out, I can see people seeing me in a weird face. Like, till now it was not that big issue, like hijab was not a big issue, but now I can see this people, non-Muslims seeing hijabis in a different way of different side. That is very that is a very absolute grief, I can say. And the people who are very extremists, they are still telling that why the first issue, the first six girls wanted to pledge for the, I mean, they forced to wear hijab and all those things because they was already not allowed, and why they started wearing hijab and all those things. Wherein there are some other group in non-Muslims who also tell that it's not actually right because they are in support of hijab, but drawback is that they never come in front of media to come in support of hijab. That is where we are lacking behind. We actually had approached a lot of non-Muslims who are in support of hijab, but they don't want to disclose their names or their faces anywhere in media. They're in that way they are scared of.
Okay, thank you so much. I think the other part to that question is, do you think this crisis can still be resolved by sitting down with administrations of college? Because we did see one college in, was it Mysore? I don't remember. There was one college that did repeal their hijab ban, right? Do you think there's still the chance that this can be resolved without like the public flare up that we're seeing right now?
Actually, it can be easily solved if the management or the principal of each of the colleges give that leniency to wear. Because we have been seeing some colleges where the issues are being solved. Like there are few Christian colleges wherein they are allowing, even if there are only 2 Muslim girls, they're allowing girls to wear hijab, and they are telling them not to stay away from the institution. They are giving them a separate place wherein they are not noticeable, and they're giving their classes and all those things. So I think, and we can also see cases wherein they are also removing this uniformity itself. They're giving color dress code to the students so that they can wear hijab. So I think it, in one hand, this case can easily be solved if the principals give some leniency. And instead of waiting for High Court's order, I think it can easily be solved. But the principals who are an extremists, majority extremists, they directly show that anger towards hijabis.
We really appreciate your answers and your time. You're so well spoken, mashallah, tabarakallah. May Allah reward you and like just help you with everything that you and your fellow Muslim sisters in India are going through. I just want to end by asking Sister Sumaya and Sister Amina, since we've heard from Amna that a lot of these young women are dealing with a lot of, stress and anxiety from this like constant barrage of hate that they're receiving, would either of you like to, or both of you really, would you like to give a short message of encouragement to these young women?
Firstly, I would really congratulate these young women. I have posted many times on my Twitter account as well that these young girls in 18s and 19s, literally early 20s, are inspiring millions of other women across the world. Muskan, the video that came out, as heart-wrenching as it was, the inspiration that she was to not just myself, but to every Muslim women who have seen that when she shouted Allahu Akbar, she was, and I have listened to most of her interviews, and the way she talks and the way she was saying that she was not afraid at that moment. I just want all the women who are fighting, all the girls, our Muslim Indian girls who are fighting, to know that you're not alone. We are standing by you in complete solidarity. As much stressful and as much mentally traumatic, I cannot even imagine how I personally would have reacted if I was in the shoes of Muskan or any one of you. I just want to let you know that you all, each one of you, inspire us. And please know that if it is too much, just take off from the news media or the social media and take a break. But definitely it's traumatizing. And all that I would say is we are making dua as well as making efforts to make sure this is subsided. But I would like to conclude by saying you all are inspiration. The moment you feel down, just know that you are inspiring millions of women like me and Sumaya and Safa and others across the world, not just in your state or your country, but across the world. I think that should give you a lot of motivation.
Thank you, Sister Amina. So Sumaya, we'll end with you.
I don't even know what else I can say on top of that, Sister Amina. I am so moved the last few weeks watching everything sort of play out. And, I think that, like you said, we all stand in solidarity with you all. What I wanted to share also is, I'm tuning in from London right now. I've lived in Europe for a couple months. I've been here since like August, and I've traveled to different parts of Europe where there are literal hijab bans as well in some of these countries. And I have spoken to women who have been living for years, for example, in France, being unable to intern, being unable to give exams, being unable to enter college campuses, just like India. What is happening in India right now is not new. It's not that it's never happened in the world. It has happened in so many places. So not only do the women of the United States, like Sister Amina and myself, stand with you, all oppressed and marginalized Muslim women who have fought and resisted laws, unfair, unjust, oppressive laws and policies, all stand with you. Their histories are a part of your histories. Your resistance against the fascist government of India right now is a continuation of a long legacy of resistance that Muslim women have been a part of. You have made us all so proud. And even just by being able to speak with someone like Amna, I feel so blessed and so honored to be in your presence and hear from you every single thing you guys are all going through. Know that we all stand with you. Know that these tactics, they're not new. Part of my advice, if I were sort of in those shoes, would be to build international solidarity networks with Muslim women who have done this before, who have sort of resisted and been subjected to unfair, hijab bans and anti-veiling and de-veiling campaigns. I know I mentioned that like in my talk, but this has happened and it is still happening in different parts of the world. What are those Muslim women doing? There has to be something that we all come up with together. The Muslim women of India cannot do this alone. The Muslim women of France cannot do this alone. We have to learn from each other. We have to talk to each other. What has worked for you? You know, that's sort of one thing. The other thing I want to say is, we always say, like, you know, when you're on an airplane, you have to put your mask on first before putting the mask on other people. Take care of yourselves. Sister Amina, you said take a break from social media if you need to. Seriously, do it, because Twitter is not a friendly place. It is not a place that is conducive to fantastic mental health. There are literal sort of machines that produce tweets that are designed to psychologically harm us. And so, you know, take a step back and understand that, you know, we won't be able to do anything if the Muslim women of India are unable to take care of themselves. So please prioritize your own health, prioritize yourself, and inshallah, our duas are with you.
Thank you so much to all of you, to all of our speakers for lending your time today, especially to Sister Amna. Again, I don't know how to express like the gratitude we have that you took the time to share your experience with us. And if there's any way we can continue to support, and this goes to anyone watching from India, please do reach out to us. We are here to listen to you, and we are here to help and support in whatever ways that we can. So I'd like to give one last message to those of you who are watching from outside of India. And it's unfortunate that much of the world is always so ready to liberate Muslim women, to free them from Muslim men, and to encourage them to wear less and to rebel against their faith. But so few people are ready to listen to Muslim women when they say loud and clear that they love the hijab and that the hijab is their choice and that they will not stop fighting for their right to wear whatever they want. And to quote one brave Indian Muslim woman whose interview can be found on social media, just like you all have your celebrations, hijab is our celebration. And I encourage you to vocally and consistently support and celebrate Indian Muslim women whose courage and passion should be an inspiration to the entire world. As we conclude, I'd like to thank the co-sponsors of this briefing: Amnesty International USA, Genocide Watch, 21 Wilberforce, Hindus for Human Rights, Indian American Muslim Council, International Christian Concern, Jubilee Campaign, Dalit Solidarity Forum, New York State Council of Churches, Federation of Indian American Christian Organizations of North America, India Civil Watch International, Students Against Hindutva Ideology, Center for Pluralism, American Muslim Institution, International Society for Peace and Justice, Association of Indian Muslims of America, and the Humanism Project. For further resources, please do check out any of these organizations' websites. We wish you all the best. Thank you so much for tuning in, and have a great rest of your day.